This is the Knock and Talk Show, an Alio first responder veteran podcast, sharing some comic relief from the street.
Hey folks, welcome to the 39th episode of the Knock and Talk Show. I, of course, am your host, Patrick Faulkner, and our guest for this episode is Charles Doolittle Jr. Now, Charles has been a law enforcement officer on both the West Coast as well as the East Coast. He's got 23 years logged in as a first responder and law enforcement officer. He's worked in the gang task force, hostage negotiations, intel, and he is a Maxwell leadership team member. In this episode, we're going to laugh quite a bit, actually. We're going to learn what not to do with the neighbor's dog. We're also going to learn what book not to request while you're at the bookstore, and a fascinating story about ghettos. Want to know more? Yes, you do. Stay tuned. We'll be back right after this.
Legal Swiggles in pursuit, military in Riverside, coming into the city. No vehicle description on a Washington plated car. It's incident 2130.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 39th episode of the Knock and Talk Show. I, of course, am your host, Patrick Faulkner, and our guest for this episode is Charles Doolittle Jr., a retired law enforcement officer out of California with 23 years under his belt. And now he's doing some pretty cool stuff, still in the first responder community. Charles, welcome to the Knock and Talk Show.
Patrick, thank you so much. Good to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad we stuck through some of the technical difficulties we were having early on. But that's what we do in this profession, right? We stick to it. We have that stay in the fight mentality, never give up, keep going. And we went to Plan B, and Plan B worked. So, Charles, why don't you take some time, introduce yourself to everybody, a little bit about your background, a little bit about what you do now, and we'll dig deeper into that toward the end of the show. But at this, I'm going to give you the mic.
Wow. Thank you. You know, what's interesting is that most people outside of our profession, when they see what little bit of a background that I have in the law enforcement arena, many are just impressed with what I've accomplished. And for me, in the business arena, I don't think I've accomplished really anything. So, but it's all relative, I guess.
It is.
So my background, and I started out on the streets, Glendale, California, and I did 9 years. I did 9 years there. And I thought that I was done. And because I was moving into the arena of voiceover and other stuff in the Hollywood industry, but I didn't let it fully come to fruition. And ultimately, I ended up back in the profession. I went to a different agency. I'm now on the East Coast, and I became a deputy sheriff, which was my original plan. I wanted to be a deputy. That was, I was disqualified. That's a whole nother story, but I went through the process, the background process, got disqualified at the oral psych. And so I go to a law enforcement expo at Cal State Los Angeles.
Okay.
And all of the agencies are there, state, federal, local. And man, I'm like, okay. So I ended up talking to an LA deputy who gave me some of what I felt was the best wisdom that I could ask for, unsolicited, but he gave it to me. He said, look, Your job is to get in. Just
Hmm.
get in. And if you get in and you want to transfer lateral, do it at that point. So I was very fortunate. I walked around a second time, and I had I had never heard of Glendale PD. Never heard of it.
Yeah.
And so my ultimately he became my supervisor. He said, "Hey, guy,
Oh,
come over
well.
here, talk to us. Yeah, come
You,
talk to us."
come here.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, okay. And then and then he hits me with this line of, "Did you know you only need 40 college hours?" And at the time, that's all I had. A little bit, few more. We'll waive the written. Come again?
What? Say it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Did I hear that right?
Uh, so now he's got my attention. And so, long story shortened, I go and talk to him. Next thing you know, I have an interview the next week, and then everything else is history from working with Glendale, and it was wonderful for the most part. Um, got to work gangs. I got to actually work everything, literally, with the exception of sexual assaults and robbery. However, as you know, when you work gangs, you work all of that. So,
Yes. Excuse me. I'm
um,
sorry.
yeah, yeah. So, and then when I moved to the East Coast and the Mid Atlantic, I was working in the private sector, and eventually the entity let me go because they couldn't afford me.
Mm.
So, Charles, what do you know to do? What do you know? What you know? So, and I was still kind of still pursuing something in broadcasting, and I had even went to a trade school for broadcasting, and but then I knew law enforcement. That's what I
Mhm.
knew, and so I ended up at a another agency, and I spent 14 years there, and pretty much I did quite a bit. I will say that, um, but I didn't get to do all that I wanted to do.
Mm.
Because my biggest thing, just as a sidebar, my what drove me to do it, to return, was I really I was moved. The military people who go to the military were moved by 9/11, right?
Right.
Um, I had a similar, I guess, unction. I'll use that word. That
Good word.
and because it was in the area of failed intelligence. That's what I wanted to be involved in. I
Wow.
was going to do my part to prevent another 9/11, but do it through the law enforcement community. And so um, eventually I ended up getting a top secret clearance, and I don't need to go into all that, but um, and I did get to do it. So, and then I
Awesome.
promoted. That was my biggest goal. That was my biggest goal in when I came into the profession, and that was to promote, and that's what I got to do. So that, in a nutshell, Patrick, is yeah, that's it.
Wow. I mean, I would say that's impressive, as you put it. I mean, gangs, hostage negotiator, intel. Um, that's that. Those are accomplishments in the law enforcement community. Most everybody that watches the show is somehow related to law enforcement or first responder, military veteran. But there's so many different niches inside law enforcement. It's just not writing traffic tickets. There's so much more. Almost any civilian job, there is a similar or exact mirror counterpart within law enforcement. You've got your admin, right? You've got your investigations. I mean, it's cyber crimes, uh, financial crimes, uh, and then there's the other stuff, uniform patrol, answering calls for service and stuff. But yeah, I mean, That's pretty impressive. I too had the idea that I wanted to be a deputy. I'm on the East Coast, in Metro Atlanta, and here in Georgia, the SO wears brown, and PD wears a version of blue, whether it's French blue or navy blue or LAPD blue. I always thought it would be interesting to wear brown, and I got the opportunity not that long ago to wear brown for a few months, and I hated the jail. I just I would I that was adult babysitting is what I would call that. It was not fun, not for me anyway. So, well, tell me, um, from California to the East Coast and then back to California.
No, no, not yet. Um,
Okay,
that's coming.
that's
That is
coming.
coming.
Okay,
Yes, because I'm going back home next. My goal is next year to be back home. Um, I'm not an East Coast guy. I've learned that. Um,
okay.
I need the relaxed atmosphere of the West Coast.
You
That's
know, yeah, there's something I call it slow time. Anything west of Eastern time is just slow time because it really does slow down, from what I can tell,
yeah,
from
yeah.
friends and family and stuff. Um, I'm intrigued about this broadcasting voiceover stuff. Have you done any voices that we would know?
No, no.
Oh,
Most
okay.
of my work has been either in the private industry. I've had a number of auditions. I've been trained by two of the best in the industry, both on the East Coast, New York in particular, and then in Burbank, California.
Mm.
So, in fact, it's interesting that I think it was today is Thursday. So Tuesday, I was introduced to a gentleman that kind of updated me. I again, having pursued it and still am somewhat pursuing it. And I do little side projects for churches and things of that sort. And I just, as I said, I got introduced to a gentleman who's in the profession and in the business. And he just gave me some updates of some information. And so my goal is still to get in it
Mm.
because you may or may not, I don't know if you know or not, but your audience may not know. Um, Once you become that A-list type of voice, uh, it's lucrative. It's extremely lucrative. And even within that profession, there are niches.
Oh,
So,
really? Okay.
oh yeah, yeah. There's people who do. Um, I wish I could think of a good example, but they call it a tagline. So it might be 3 words. It might be
Mm,
5 words at the
mm.
end of a commercial. Nationwide, nationwide's on your side.
Right. Right. Okay.
That's a tag. That's a tagline. But even
Okay.
and although I use that one, that is sung, but there is that kind of job. Obviously,
Interesting.
there's narration for books. Um,
Mm.
so the point really here is that once you break in, and of course, there's different tiers of money. If you have a national commercial, uh, literally nationwide, where it's let's see, will be a good. I think Ving Rhames, the actor Ving Rhames, who does Arby's.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
We have the
Yeah.
meats.
Yes.
Um,
Yes. That's actually pretty good.
um, and so somebody like him, um, his commercials across America. Samuel
Mhm.
Jackson in Capital One.
Right.
Um,
Right.
I think it's Capital One.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
those guys, right? So those guys. they have learned and understand that a voiceover, because you can do it one of two ways. You can either have a in-home studio and work from home in your sweats, t-shirt, or you can go into a studio in your sweatshirt and t-shirt
Ah, okay. Yeah.
and get paid handsomely for your, if you have a contract for 5 commercials, you just go in there and knock out 5 commercials. It might take you from 12 to noon, because you know the takes, retakes, etc. Um, but there are 7-figure people in the.
Wow.
Of course, you have cartoon. Then you have cartoons. So,
Yeah.
and
So
you
I
know, so
heard a,
success.
I'm sorry, I didn't
Go
mean
ahead.
to interrupt you. Go ahead.
It's okay.
Uh,
No, I was just going to say,
um,
think about. I think the cartoon is still on the air. The Simpsons.
mhm.
Those actors and actresses behind those cartoon voices are 7-figure people.
Oh, easy. Yeah, easy. So I heard the other day, me and a coworker were standing around the coffee pot talking on a break, and we were actually talking about actors who are known for something and unknown for their voiceovers. Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker. I didn't realize, but he has done dozens upon dozens of cartoon characters since Star Wars. And that's what he has been doing between, 1980, whatever it was, when The Last Jedi came out, and the rebirths. I had no idea. I don't watch that many cartoons, so
Right.
I found that interesting. So maybe you can get a cartoon with 5 lines and get 7 figures.
Well,
That's the goal.
I did audition for a cartoon, but it leaned more toward the adult version
Mm.
of a cartoon. Um, it was definitely R rated, but it was closer, and I just couldn't put my voice to it. I just,
Mm.
from an integrity and from a character perspective, I couldn't put my voice to that product. I just couldn't do it. Now, did it cost me? Possibly, but I just, there's some things that there's some lines that
Yes.
you can, like in our business, there's lines you can't cross,
Right. Right.
and most of those are internal. So, um, oh well.
Oh well. Yeah. Yeah. No. I mean, you'll find you'll get paid in um, in a different way for passing over that one. It'll come in. I had the word I was trying to use once before, and I've lost it twice. Dividends. You'll get paid in dividends for carrying your integrity. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe that.
So you mentioned that one of your law enforcement goals was to rank up. What rank did you reach before retirement?
I retired at the rank of sergeant,
Ah,
and
yes. Okay.
um, yeah,
Me too.
and there we go. And I thought about the what we have. We have a middle, a position in between what we call a commander and sergeant, and that's the second lieutenant position.
Okay.
And at the time, it really was, if you were going to promote and not have the same level of responsibility of a commander over a squad, then that was the position, second lieutenant.
Mm.
And however, since COVID, and since a lot of some of the bad apples in the field of in our profession, you know, that position has taken such a toll. Well, actually, the the whole of law enforcement's taken a toll. You know that, but I'm speaking in terms of the hiring process
Hmm.
and in terms of just getting people to buy into law enforcement.
Right.
And the agency that I used to work for, they're taking a significant hit, and so and because they are primarily confinement, um, younger people don't want to do that.
No. No.
They don't. So, so what we have found in the agency I worked for, now you have lieutenants working in actual post, which in the past they were admin,
Right. Yeah.
you know, and working and continuing to climb that ladder to the next level. And so now they're working a post like because of
Right.
staff shortages, and
Yeah.
mandatory overtime. So I got out there at the right time.
Yes. Yeah. Um, I got out in 2014 with a torn rotator cuff. Um, right when the hands up, don't shoot, can't breathe kind of thing. That whole thing, 2014 was going on, and in my opinion, that was the beginning, really, of the assault on law enforcement officers. It's never been a, a safe job, right? It's never been a safe job. That's why we had to
Right.
carry a gun to work. But after that, there was a shift in mentality toward law enforcement and the profession, and it became just downright dangerous. And um, I was newly married, and my wife said, "I don't care. You're not going back. Find something else to do. You're not re-entering
Wow.
into that world." Um, but before that, and I was a patrol sergeant and a canine sergeant, and I was asked to put in for a lieutenant promotion, and yeah, and that was a salaried position, whereas I was still an hourly officer or sergeant, and I was going to lose so much money because of the overtime, the the canine aspect of it. Getting paid an hour overtime every day to take care of the dog and pony shows, the training, all that kind of stuff. I was going to lose. It just financially, it didn't make sense for me to promote to lieutenant. Did you find that was? I mean, I didn't know out there in California where you were stripes still hourly, and then you get into the collar brass, and that becomes salaried.
When I was there, yes.
Yeah.
You know, here it was the lieutenants. They're salaried. They no overtime, um,
Hmm.
whether they were in the jail or whether they were in courts or some other position. They're salaried.
Right.
And then of course, if you are in confinement, you are also, if you're, and especially if you're working overnight, you're going to get an hour of overtime or a half hour of overtime automatically because you're coming in a half hour early. And then, of course, shift differential. So
Okay.
there's a lot of money. And that's why it's even good to be a supervisor in confinement for that very reason, because even a lieutenant, second lieutenant, those folks, they get that same little perk. But once you leave confinement, um, that's gone, and and we also had because we worked 12.5 hours per
Mm.
shift, so there was a little overtime there. But so um, California very similar, with the exception of those patrol sergeants were over got overtime if they wanted it. Um, but the admin or the commanders, yeah, they were salaried.
Mm.
But
Did
our
you did
PD got paid pretty well, though.
Oh well.
I mean, they got paid well. So They weren't hurt.
Uh, when I was working for the Gwinnett County Police Department here in Metro Atlanta, we actually, the officers collectively, uh, collected money from all over the department. We had 5 different precincts, but officers from all over the department donated money, and we as an agency paid for a billboard right at the county line as you were coming in from DeKalb County on I-85. And the billboard said, "Welcome to Gwinnett, home of the lowest paid police officers in Atlanta." And that was up for months and months and months. So would you like to know what the Gwinnett County commissioners decided to do in, I was going to say in respect, but it's really in retaliation. So they spent like $5 million or something crazy like that on a pay study right after the AJC, which is the Atlanta Constitutional Journal newspaper, did the same thing. They couldn't just take AJC's pay study that they did. They paid, I think it was $1 million anyway. So they found out, in fact, we were the lowest paid officers in Atlanta and gave us a pay raise. It was like a 7% pay raise or something like that. But then they upped our benefits contributions by 4% to help make up for it. So we got 3%. Yep. Yeah, we got a 3% raise. Yeah. Yep.
That's interesting how they do that. And I'm sure because same with the fire department. Fire department can almost get what they want, but law enforcement, you got to scratch, claw,
Ain't
beg,
that the
borrow, and
truth?
steal.
Ain't
Almost,
that the truth?
So yeah. So Mike. Now I will say this about again about Glendale. Glendale was very pro police, the city.
Wow.
And so our union was whenever our contract was up um, with the city, they could go in there and negotiate, and we got what we needed, what we wanted. We may not have got the staffing, but we definitely got the money and the benefits. So we were paid very well, and at one point, Glendale was the third highest paid. That has since changed. They're still paid well. Don't get me wrong. They're
Okay.
still paid well. But there's other places like San Jose PD, um, some of the departments in Orange County. The sheriffs, all sheriffs, they're paid okay. But those city police departments, they get the ducats. They definitely get the
They get
ducats.
the ducats.
So
Get a nice chunk of cheddar is what you're saying.
yes, sir. A chunk, usually chunks. Yeah, they do.
Charles, what's the funniest thing you remember that happened while you were inside the jail or in confinement? What's the funniest thing you remember?
So I'm not going to say exactly how it was said,
Okay.
but
To protect the innocent, right?
well, that and just to keep this thing G-rated.
Oh,
So
fair. Okay.
so you know, um, I don't know how long you worked inside of the facility, but so there's this position where every person that comes in gets an interview, and the men and women who do the interviewing of these inmates when they first come in, and then especially if they're going to be there for an extended stay, shall we say,
An extended
um,
stay.
uh, we interview them, and we have to, make sure we house them correctly. You don't want, you know, obviously gangs, rival gangs together, those kinds of things. So, guy comes in and he's arrested for, hold on to your seats, he's arrested for having intercourse with the neighbor's dog.
No. 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 What? What?
If you know I'm not lying because truth
No,
is
but
stranger than fiction.
yes, Hollywood can't make this stuff up.
They can't make it up. So so
The
the
neighbor's dog.
supervisor so so the supervisor is interviewing the guy, and yeah. So he says, so William, why are you here? Uh, I was getting it with the dog next door. What the?
What the?
You
What
did
the?
what?
And you're
Wait a minute.
telling me?
Yeah. I mean, the supervisor screamed in disbelief. What the Franklin Delano Roosevelt? What did you just say? Yeah, yeah. I, I punched the neighbor's pooch. Oh my God. Oh,
Oh,
for
I'm
the
crying.
jokes. Oh my God, the jokes.
That dude, he
You can
had to
imagine
be.
them.
Yeah, I.
Oh my God. When I heard that story, and I worked closely with those guys. It's called classification. That's the department.
Right.
And
Okay.
and so when they told me that story, and they told me the supervisor's response, I was in tears because, and of course, again, then of course the jokes began. Uh, oh my
All,
goodness gracious!
all the jokes,
Oh, it was
all of them.
all of them. Oh my God! Yeah, that was that to me was the
Oh,
funniest out of my 14 years. That was the funniest story I was a part of, and I was a
yeah.
distant part, but I was a part of
It was just
it. Oh
you know,
boy,
I can't believe he openly admitted. I mean,
yeah,
at least say something like, "I don't know why I'm here. The guy's making this thing up." So, any anything. The aliens made me do it. I don't. Oh my god.
yeah. Fido and I we had a little encounter.
was,
Um,
was it Fido or
um,
Fifi?
no, I don't know that part. I'm thinking though. Oh boy. Uh, I guess we can hope it was Fifi. We
My
should
god.
hope for the best.
Yes. Yeah. Hope for the best. Oh, I mean, if
Yeah,
there's a best case scenario in this story.
yeah, Fifi. Maybe. Well, yeah. That was the funniest story. I mean,
Oh
oh my goodness. Oh
God,
yeah, yeah.
jeez.
That's classic,
And folks, this is
classic.
why we will always have job security in that career field.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, you'll be laughing for a few days
Oh, I
on that
can't
one right
wait to
there.
share
That's for
this
sure.
story. I can't. Oh
Oh,
gosh.
oh my God.
I mean, in Florida,
Yeah.
there's the title that says Florida man dot dot dot, right? And it's always something crazy on the end of the dot dot dot. Yeah, this didn't happen in Florida.
No, sir. No, sir. It did not. No, it did not. Man, I'm
Oh
telling you.
goodness.
Oh boy.
Oh goodness. Eh,
Um, I still get it. I still get a good laugh when I think
yeah.
about it. And
Oh gosh, how do you top that
yeah,
story? I've got nothing, Charles. I've got nothing.
yeah. I got one of my other favorites was
Oh,
actually on the streets.
okay.
I was working gangs at the time, and we had this big case, and this thing had like three or four funny stories in this case,
Okay.
right? So we call it the Maltman story because the suspects lived on a street called
Okay.
Maltman Avenue.
Okay.
So in the city, someone graffitied this church with satanic
Mm.
words, um, diagrams.
Okay.
So literally, they vandalized this church, and we learned through investigation that there's Satan worshipers,
Okay.
literal Satan worshipers.
I mean, I remember when
So
that was a thing, a big thing in the 80s, right? I mean, if you look at some of
yeah,
the movies that
yeah,
were made, Cobra with Sylvester Stallone, Dragnet with Tom Hanks, there were a couple others. That was a big deal in California in the 80s. I didn't realize it was still a thing.
this was a thing,
Okay.
and it made our local news, both in the newspaper but also in the local TV news. And so, um, and of course, the city itself, the city government, they were, hey, what are we going to do about this? Well, it's just vandalism to us as gang investigators,
Right.
right? It doesn't have any real carry any weight. Nobody was injured. Nobody was. It's just graffiti, but it carried a political overtone
Oh
to it,
yeah. Yeah.
and right, and you guys need to do something. So they did.
Something
Our
must be
people,
done.
our super today, um, and so the investigative bureau, they said, okay, well, give it to gangs, give it to gangs. Okay, nobody in the unit, of course, had ever invested what we learned to be Satan worshipers. Well, I was the only guy in the unit that had some kind of spirituality in the unit.
Mm.
And so, um, not that my knowledge translated per se into this investigation, but as I said, there were like 3 or 4 humorous stories within this investigation. So, my partner, um, who was the veteran of the gang and of the gang unit,
Okay.
he was the more senior guy, and he gets the case. So he does starts doing his research, and starts gathering intel. And so the first story, um, we for whatever reason decide that we're going to look up various books, et cetera, et cetera. And I forget the bookstore. It might have been a Borders, but something like that when the brick and mortar bookstores were still
We're still
popular.
okay.
Yeah. So we go to this one bookstore, and so he's white, I'm black. Obviously, I'm black, but that was the partnership.
I, you
So
are?
this plays a role. This plays
Okay.
a role
Okay.
in in this investigation. So we go to this store, and it's north of the city that we patrol. We go inside, and there is working the counter another black citizen. I said, so and so, work with me on this. This is going to be classic. Trust me. So 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 we go in there, and I walk up to the counter, and as I said, he's another soul brother. I said, excuse me, sir. Where are your books on Satan worship?
Uh,
What did you just say? What did you just say? I, Sir, I'm looking for books on Satan worship. We don't serve no Satan people.
oh, this poor man.
Satan people. He doesn't know. So he yelled like that. And my partner is in the back, toward the back of the store. And when he hears that, he just hits the floor laughing.
I
And
would.
so off to the left on a phone is a black female. And all this is in the same moment in time. I get the response from the guy behind the counter. the black female, she's over here talking to somebody. Girl, some black man just came in here and ordered a book for Satan worshipers. A black man, girl. He said that my partner lost it. He is now on the floor in tears. Right? So I said, what's the problem? I need a book on Satan worship. Yo, man, I told you we don't serve no Satan people. So I said, all right, I'll just find it myself. So finally, I mean, we stayed there for about another 10 minutes, but we went out. My friend was in tears still. So that was that was example number one.
Number one.
And then there was some yeah, that's one. So we're continuing investigation, and it is starting to move, getting a little steam now. So now we know kind of where the guy generally lives. We find that we get a potential location, and so we're doing the whole stakeout thing and surveillance and everything. And so now we're getting the investigation going to the point now where it's getting a little, a little bit more meat to the investigation.
Okay.
And so we're, when they get out on the road, we're trying to follow them, et cetera, et cetera. So, oh boy. So one of the detectives from narcotics, they loaned us their car because we didn't have enough cars on this particular weekend to conduct the surveillance. Brand new car. And so we get back, and after and she was the person who generally was assigned the car. She was with us. Car caught on fire. Just caught on fire. Brand new.
Spontaneously combusted?
Combustion. Yeah.
Goodness.
She's like,
what'd you do?
I'm done. She said, I'm done. I don't want no more of this investigation. That's it. I'm out.
It was hellfire. Is that what she was afraid of? It was hellfire?
It literally was. Yes, sir. Brand new car, spontaneously combusted. And we're like, oh my goodness.
Oh.
This is getting a little spooky.
Yeah.
So you got that one. And then so now it's time to execute the search warrant. So the main guy, he's like a legit devil worshiper. So I'm gonna fast forward a little bit, but then I'm gonna backtrack. So we've I mean, he's got the whole setup. Once we get inside, he's got the whole setup. He's got a little altar. He's got a pentagram. He's got the stuff. So we've taken down. I think it was three, or at least three, probably four guys that we've arrested. Two of the three, or three of the four. So now we're at the main guy's house. So knock and notice, ram the door. In the living room, fully dressed, sitting upright and vertical, is a mannequin. Now, you could imagine, as a person who's maybe executed a search warrant,
one or two,
something that looks human is sitting as we come through the door. MP5s, shotguns, we're getting ready to blow up whatever's in this chair. Don't shoot her! Don't shoot her! Please don't shoot her!
Oh my God. Oh no. I think we lost him. Charles? That's a little spooky. Like, 6. Can you hear me? I see you now.
Yes.
So now you can add a fourth funny part to this story about how you were telling the story, and then everything goes black. I don't think Lucifer likes you telling this story.
He doesn't. He doesn't. No, sir. He does not. So you can
Okay.
tell that story now.
Yeah, absolutely. So
That's
knock
the
and
kind of stuff.
announce, not knock and talk. Knock and announce. You're in the door, mannequin sitting in the chair, and everybody's got front sights trained on the mannequin. And then what happens?
He comes running in. He's screaming, "Don't shoot her! Don't shoot her!" Because this is a person in his mind. Don't
Her
shoot her. Yeah, yeah, literally. Don't
name
shoot her.
is her name
Don't shoot
Fifi.
her. I reacted to get her name. I'm like, and she and the way she was dressed. I mean, she was dressed real provocatively, negligee, and
Mm.
we're like, man, get on the ground, dude, get on the ground, and
You got
you
time for this?
just get on the ground. We're like, yeah, get on the ground. Uh, so, so we took him into custody. But man, I tell you what, when we went in that back room, he had it all set up,
Mm.
and he had a little, um, like I said, it was an odd case, obviously. Um, not one of our, quote unquote, you know, real high speed, you know, case, anything like that. But it was bizarre.
Yeah.
It had its funny moments, and I tell you what, man, that was probably the funniest. I mean, I had some other incidents, but that thing was classic because of the different times when it was humorous. We go to this one bookstore. I forgot this part. This is the fourth story in there. So we go to this one bookstore in Hollywood, and we're trying to find literature, anything on, again, satanic worship, satanic worshipers, etc. So my boys go in there, the other two, because I was the only black guy on the team. So the other two guys go in there in this bookstore. Hang on to your seats.
Okay. I'm gonna
They
buckle in.
come back. Yeah, they come back with this book. Now I have no idea to this day what it was, why they bought it,
Okay.
but in this book, it had this thing called the. This is no joke. This is no joke. The vagina monster.
I'm sorry. The what?
You heard me.
Oh, I didn't.
This
I'm sorry. I can't hear.
uh, it was called the vagina
You can't even
monster,
say it.
and I'm telling you, and it had these teeth. It had these teeth like some werewolf. Uh,
What?
yeah,
I,
I don't,
and
I don't know. I don't
and
know.
uh, it's,
I, I don't know. But I know it had something to do with the case. That's all I know. And
sure.
and you know, yeah, but yeah, that was odd looking. It was humorous. Uh, oh my goodness, the vagina monster. Yeah,
The
that
vagina
was
monster. The folks,
the
don't
vagina
Google that.
monster.
Don't Google it. I don't
Don't
think you'll.
do not do not. It's not a pretty sight. Don't do it. Don't do it. Just saying.
especially not on a work computer. Do not use it on an agency
Don't
computer.
do it. Don't do it.
And there's going to be some knucklehead
Some
that does it.
yes, yes. Don't do it. We're telling you up front. Disclaimer: don't
Disclaim
Google
that's
that
right.
at work.
That's right. Hashtag don't do it.
Don't do it. Yeah, yeah. That case, man,
Mm,
wild.
that is crazy. Like I said, I remember, as a kid in the 80s, that being a thing, and like my parents sitting us down, me and my brother, and trying to tell us, hey, if anybody starts talking like this or brings this kind of stuff up, you just need to politely walk away. There's an organization, just in case anybody watching this comes across something similar. There's an organization called Watchmen's Fellowship, and it's a nonprofit investigative wing into cults and satanic worshiping. They have all kinds of literature that they can share. If you've got a case and all of a sudden you've got multiple reports of lost dogs, cats in a particular neighborhood, and then you find carcasses a couple days later that are bled out. You got satanic worshipers. Uh,
Yep.
yeah.
Generally
So,
speaking.
well,
Yeah, that was my.
those are up there, Charles. Those are up there with some stories.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and again, you can't make it. Yeah, and let me throw this in because I meant to. The when I learned about your show,
Hmm.
see, I had this idea to have a sitcom using the funniest police stories from across America.
Mm.
That has been an idea I have held for 20 years. And I think that that would be a show
Oh
that
yeah,
one, how do you run out of scripts?
you can't. You can't because
Can't.
I mean, just think how many states are there, right? There's 50 states. Uh, and within, so there's state agencies, right? And each one of these state agencies has a law enforcement arm. Not This isn't counting federal folks. This is just state.
Right. Yeah,
And then you've got locals, county,
yeah, yeah.
um, and then you have municipalities. You also have marshals' offices, and you have constables, and you have um, you
State
know
troopers.
state
Uh,
troopers, yeah,
yeah,
DNR, game wardens,
yeah,
marine investigators, or marine patrol,
yeah, yeah.
and now let's start cracking into the feds. Every federal agency or entity has an investigative arm to it. There's some kind of investigator to find fraud within that whatever government entity is. So postmasters, the ATF, everybody's favorite, all the alphabet soups. You know, there's no end to the stories. No end.
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
my idea is so if your story is selected, you get a cameo in your own story.
beautiful. That is that's great. Um, I'm going to try to help you make that happen. I don't know if you know the history behind the Knock and Talk show and how it started. But me and two what I call old timers, they were supervisors of mine, and we're still friends now. They were over here at the house, and we were on my back deck, and we were smoking cigars and drinking 2 fingers of bourbon, and we were telling old war stories. Hey, do you remember when this happened? You remember when that guy did this? You remember chasing no so and so? And I said to myself, there's a podcast here. These are great stories. Other people need to hear these stories. The stories we tell each other when we're bellied up at the bar or at a barbecue, or the stories we tell people that we don't like so they walk away, right? And leave us alone when we tell the dark stories. But we all have stories. We all need to share them so that the stories don't die. I mean, how many stories are in the graveyard?
Oh, forget about it.
Yeah. Forget about it, eh? Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I had a supervisor, an old timer, when I first started in 1999 in law enforcement. He said, "Son, you need to keep a notebook in your car and write notes about your calls, because you're going to go back 20 years later and you're going to remember every single one of these calls you write down because they stay up here." And I was like, whatever, old timer, crazy guy. That's why I have this podcast, is because so many of those stories we can't hear anymore. And I am so glad I got to hear these stories.
I really, again, I won't go too much into the idea, but I really thought, man, there is no way. I mean, for example, so I had a dispatcher, and we really got along. And whenever she would do a ride along, she would always want to ride with me,
Okay.
always. And so I began to notice a little pattern with her. And the first time it happens, you don't really think too much about it. And this person had bad feet. Just I mean, horrible, horrific feet. Okay, the first one or two. Okay, this is a fluke. But I did tell her on the second one, that's 2 times now that we've ridden together, and we've experienced somebody with bad feet. Okay, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's you or if it's me. I'm just not sure.
It's a combo.
I'm just saying. Yeah, I'm just saying. So she comes out a third time. Oh my God.
No.
These things, you could see the nails from across the road. And these things look like the toenails of a velociraptor. I'm like, what?
There's a term for that. They're called ghettos.
Yeah. These things, and they're over the front end of a sandal. I said, see, that's 3. I said, that's 3. Look. This is not a fluke.
Oh gosh.
Oh my God, they were some of the worst toenails I have ever seen on a man.
On a man.
By the way, on a man. And that was the thing. They were all men.
Oh.
And I'm like, what is it about you?
It's about you.
It ain't about me. It's you.
No more.
I don't have these experiences when I'm by myself.
That's right. You're not getting in my car. Man. No more.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Oh, they're awful. That was.
And if you had a foot fetish before that, you didn't afterwards.
It's cured.
It's cured. Like it's a disease.
You're back to normal. You just think that just a foot, and
Oh God, you're killing
Oh
me.
my God. Yeah, man. It was man, dude. I'm telling you, that was ugly. Those are some ugly sights. I mean, they. Uh,
Gnarly,
I
gnarly.
mean, and think about that movie, the very first Jurassic Park, when the Velociraptor starts tapping his toenail. I As soon as I saw those, I said
You see,
Jurassic Park,
I think I
Jurassic
think
Park.
of Dumb and Dumber when they go to like use the
Oh,
grinders.
that's how bad they were.
Oh
That's no
God,
exaggeration. That's how
oh,
bad they were.
it's so nasty.
Oh, they were awful. That last set was just that bad.
That
Oh
last
my God.
that,
Woo, boy.
oh God, this is the third time I've started crying in this interview.
Uh,
Oh goodness.
Trying to keep it light. Keep it light.
Wow. Yeah. No. This has been great. I think you have a I think you've got something with your idea. Your secret's safe with me. I won't tell a soul. Um I have some contacts in the voiceover Hollywood arena. I'll share with you when we get off
Appreciate it.
to maybe help make that happen. Because yeah, I would love to see Hollywood's interpretation of the ghettos.
Can you imagine? Can you?
and and what if they merged that story in with the Satan worshippers and he hung by his toenails?
Oh my God. Uh, can you imagine? I mean, can you imagine? That's the thing. When they put their spin on it, when they
Yeah.
put their spin on it,
Oh gosh.
there's
Mm.
endless. This stories are endless.
Yes, they are. Oh goodness. The revival of cops. Oh gosh, this is great. All right, Charles. What are you doing now? And how can people find you?
So I'll start with the latter question first. Um,
Okay.
I have my I have actually a couple websites, but the main one where they can get a hold of me is through the business that I'm involved in, which is financial services or insurance. But it's not just for me, it's not just about insurance for insurance sake. We have probably the premier, and I'm sure every agent will say the same thing. But in a nutshell, we have some products, in my estimation, both from a retirement perspective and as well as uh, a preventative measure, some of the best insurance products, bar none. Um, so that particular, it's my own website, although it's replicated. And do I need to type that in so that you can have
No,
that?
no, I've got them. I'll share
Okay.
them when I
Okay.
post
Oh,
this.
you got them. Okay.
They'll be down here somewhere.
Okay. Okay. So yes, um, that's my primary. When I retired in 2000, when I retired in 2021, I still needed a venue where I can serve.
Mhm.
And I thought when I was introduced to this business and to this product, not so much the business as it was the product, living benefits. I'll ask you a question, Patrick. How many people in this profession do you know that may have died prematurely from some type of disease? Um,
Too many.
Too many. Well, a living benefit, and this is for those who have insurance, right? But you may not have a living benefit. This is the difference. And when I first heard it, I said, oh my, huh, that's different. This living benefits was created by a medical physician, literal. His name is Dr. Marius Bernard. He and his brother did the first heart transplants. South Africans.
Wow. Okay.
Well, Dr. Bernard had a patient, female patient, who he had diagnosed that had cancer. And so, um, long story shortened, things got progressively worse for her. And one day she came in for a checkup with him, and he looked at her. Now she's I think in his, he actually said that she looked like a walking skeleton. And he was like, he was moved. He was just, the compassion rose up in him. He's like, well, why? What's going on? She's a mother of three, single mother of three. She had to work.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she died a short time later. So Dr. Bernard goes to an insurance company and he says, what good is insurance when a person dies? We need to do something preventative. And so he came up with this product called, it eventually called Living Benefits, where a person purchases a policy, makes the premium payments. If they're diagnosed after a premium has been paid, they can draw upon their policy and get a check issued to them to help them while they're living. So imagine, because we have one example of a guy, he's kind of like the epitome of this, but he was doing it from an investment standpoint, and in fact, he's a physician. So he decided he was going to get $1 million policy just for himself for an investment purpose. Week later, he's diagnosed with throat cancer.
Oh, wow.
He was able to file a claim with that insurance company and received a check for $750,000 after one premium payment, to help him to get well. So you think about it. It's not just the disease that gets you. It's the worry. How am I going to make my house payment? How am I going to blah, 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 blah. You name it. The idea here is you get the living benefits. And of course, there's a number of them. And after one premium payment, you might, depending on the severity of the diagnosis, you might get up to 90, that's a 90% of your policy to help you, help your family, keep the house payment, keep the house. When I heard this, that's, Patrick, I'm telling you, that is when I said, I want to be a part of something like that and be a part of this, because right within about a year after I retired, there was a guy, co-worker. He was actually a subordinate of mine because he was a master deputy. That was his title. He had been with the agency for 30 years. Now, big guy. I mean, big, but he was, still agile. Died of a heart attack about a year after I left. He still had a daughter he was trying to put through college. That's why he was still working. And he just could not afford not to keep working.
Mm-hmm.
You know stories like that, and there's others, and,
yeah.
and many, many more, right? And my desire here is, and especially law enforcement, first responders, get a product that has living benefits. I would hope they would deal with me and deal with, represent, call upon me to represent or to get the products to them, introduce them to the products. That'd be great. But here's what I encourage. Check with your carrier. Do they have a living benefits package? That's the number one question. And if they do, What is it? What is it comprised of? Because we have one of the most extensive uh, benefits packages in terms of living benefits that you can imagine. And, again, after one premium payment, if you're diagnosed with a critical illness, serious diagnosis, depending on the severity, you can get up to 90%. And here's the other thing. Let's say you get better. You don't have to pay that back. You can then take the remaining balance and do with it what you wish.
Hmm.
And
Wow.
again, and then of course, when it comes to retirement, some of our annuity products, oh my goodness, everybody is concerned about running out of money. Everybody's concerned, when as they live, do I have enough to live on into my 80s, into my, close to 90? Um, we have products out just outstanding. That's all I can say about that.
Wow.
And and we're
It's
not. And
very
here,
interesting.
let me close it. Let me close it with this.
Sure.
We're not asking people to give up their retirement vehicle 100%. Roll some of it over into an annuity so that, because our annuities have a zero loss guarantee.
Hmm. Okay.
Now, that, that's too good to be true. Um, I thought so, but I'm watching every day. People's lives have changed
Hmm.
because they make at least a portion. They don't have to give. We're not telling you to do the whole thing, but do a portion. And
Well, speaking of people's lives changing, um, here in my notes, I've got that you're doing some coaching, some life coaching,
yes,
and a Maxwell leadership team member or executive director, I
hmm
guess.
hmm
Tell us
yeah,
about that.
that's my title. Yeah. So if you are a fan, if anyone out there is a fan, probably the leading voice, most recognizable voice or name in the leadership arena is Dr. John C. Maxwell.
Hmm.
Uh, you know, he's got hundreds of books on leadership and various aspects of leadership. So he has a training company, and anyone that's interested, they can go through me, and I can recommend the name or get them introduced to the whole thing. Um, but my job is to, and I can teach on the various subjects within, i.e., um, what's a good one that I have? The 15 laws of growth. Um,
Okay.
how to become a person of influence. That's another good one. But my job is to teach, coach, train, speak, coach, train. That's what we do. And we could speak to whether it's a corporation, we can speak to people that have a training platform or a training budget. We can come in and train those people on leadership. And I'll tell you where my heart is, going back again to law enforcement. Did you really, I'm asking you, Patrick, if when you became a supervisor, did anyone really prepare you for that position?
No, I mean, no, not in
Right.
a not in a like official capacity. No.
So you didn't have an FTI per se, like you do coming out of the academy, and you're going to hit the street and listen there, Buster. We're going to show you how to. You can leave all that academy stuff in the academy. You're going to learn how to do police work, right? That's what you're going to learn
That's
how to do
right.
police work, right?
Yeah, no, there
So,
was not any field training once I put stripes on.
and that's my heart.
Mm.
The brand new supervisor, because you go from no stripes to stripes. Now you're supervising the people that you were walking side by side with yesterday, last week. Now you're their boss.
Mhm.
That happened to me. I pass the written, I pass the oral, I get the stripes. Now I'm in charge of a
Mhm.
group of men and women that I was walking alongside. And that was a transition. And to help them make that transition, that's really the heartbeat of when it comes to first responders and law enforcement in particular. That's the group I want to reach,
Awesome.
helping them to
I
communicate better.
Well, communication will always be our Achilles heel in the first responder world, but I really think that style of coaching, that genre of coaching, is absolutely necessary um, to ensure that you aren't setting up your newly promoted frontline supervisors for failure from the very beginning. Because
Absolutely.
your story, your synopsis, it happens more times than there's actually a structured process after the stripes, right? So there's supervisor school, there's management school, these things, but you have to put in for it. There has to be a budget for it. There has to be the availability for you to take time off and away from your patrol to go take that class. It's not always available. So I would encourage command staff um, to invest in their new frontline supervisor. Even start with the corporal, right? Because that's the acting sergeant when the sergeant's on vacation. Um, Start with the corporal. Start with the first set of stripes that you give out. Get them into some supervision, help, coaching. So one
And in particular, leadership.
in particular leadership, absolutely, absolutely, because they're going to be the next one getting three stripes. So, before we bid the adieus, Charles, do you have one last words of wisdom, suggestions, guidance for new officers, new supervisors, folks looking into getting into law enforcement? Anything you want to share?
So I think what I would share is number one, continue your education, whether that's formal or because, and I introduce the formal always because I think that's the direction law enforcement is going. I think more and more, and especially once you get to that supervisory level, communities aren't asking for, yeah, I used to know, I know this stuff. When my elbow hurts, I can tell. That's you know,
I've been on that call. I've been on that call.
those guys are over.
Yeah.
They want they want people that have that education that can make a calculated decision. They're not just, you still need the people that got that gut note. Okay, you know what? There's something not right here. That still needs to be there, but they need more and more of officers. I think, because I see it and I've watched it for about even before I retired, but maybe 10 years. That once, and especially in California, I saw it, especially there, where the supervisor had to be, at least the sergeant had to be, have an associate's degree. And then once you get to a commander position, you needed to be in at least a bachelor's or master's, right? So even if it's, continuing with a class once a year, um, continue that formal education, and before they know it, they'll have a degree, and then
Mhm.
they'll have options. That's the first thing I would suggest. And then the second thing is, because it's such a big thing, and this is something else I'm getting into and moving towards, is care for your mental health, care for your
Yes.
emotional health. That's gargantuan. And again, at the time when I came in, that was you know, never talked about. Suck it up, get back out
Mhm.
there, or we're going to go to church after work. and pound a few. That's not healthy. That doesn't, you know. And I think, as an aside, I really believe that a lot of the mistakes that we have seen going back to the 2012-ish, and the seemingly exaggerated or more publicized errors in judgment. I think it has a lot to do with people's mental health. Um, we're just human beings weren't designed to see what we see on a regular basis. Um, and all of that
Amen.
stuff, to me, I think it all compounds. And so then one day you're just fed up. You're not, you may not say it in that fashion, but because of the pile up and just, oh, just one more, just let one more, oh my, it's gonna be stick time. It's gonna be stick time, you know. And then next thing you know, you know what I mean?
Old Jed's a
So,
millionaire.
yeah. And so I'm working on curriculum that will be on the preventative side for the
Okay.
guys coming out of the academy, so that they can have some tools and they understand a little bit more about themselves and about the brain and about neuroscience. Not totally going into that direction, but just understand you have to take care of you because nobody else will.
Nope. No, we all think we're 6 feet tall and bulletproof, or 6'5" now, I guess is what you should say. 6'5" and bulletproof. And there was a figure I saw not too long ago that said that the average law enforcement officer in a 20-year career will encounter and experience about 700 critical incidences. The average citizen in that same 20-year span may encounter 2. And we just call those 2 Tuesday, right? Because we go from accident with possible injuries, but we arrive on scene and it's an accident with a person entrapped, one person ejected, and one person dead on the scene. And then you pack all that up, and then you go answer the call about Johnny who doesn't want to make his bed before going to school. And then after that, you get sent to a suspicious person call where you end up fighting somebody, right? And that's just Tuesday. You're going to do it again on Wednesday. You're going to do it again on your next shift, and then your next shift, and then your next shift. Yeah. So I want to thank you for bringing that up. In the last several episodes, I've mentioned the fact that I was recently diagnosed with some accumulative trauma. That very thing, the stacking and the stacking and the stacking. And I didn't realize it because it's, we take the vest off, we take the uniform off, we put it in the closet, and we're good. Thanks to an organization called the Warriors Rest Foundation. It's based out of Oklahoma, but it's a peer support where you can reach out to them. It's free. You don't have to pay for it. You reach out to them, and they will assign you a peer counselor, someone that wears polyester, someone that has been in those fights, someone that has seen those dead bodies, someone that has had to deal with little Johnny. Help you talk through it. Warriors Rest Foundation. I can't say enough about them. They certainly helped me. So thank you for bringing that up, Charles. Great way to plug them. Well, on a happier note, this has been a fantastic episode. And the stories that we heard today will resonate in the halls of the Knock and Talk show for the foreseeable future. And I will share these tomorrow at work. And then the next day at work, and anybody else who I can tell. Charles, thank you so much for coming on the show. Folks, this has been the 39th episode of the Knock and Talk show. Charles Doolittle, our new friend here out of both the West Coast and the East Coast, and soon to be famous actor, voiceover extraordinaire. Folks, stay safe, keep your head on a swivel, and we will catch you next time.
The Knock&Talk Show is a certified veteran-hosted podcast. Show your support, tune in, share, and subscribe.